dey shout. Mama oh Mama Biafra, where you dey? We dey wait for you to come our way. Simon Ekpa, you dey fight like lion, keeping Biafra safe from Zion. Oh Mama Biafra, your children they cry. Finland free our prime minister. We no go lie. Our enemy they try to annihilate. Free am now before it's too late. Freedom no be small something. Now waiting we dey demand without fronting. Biafra land we want am strong. We Simon Ekpa, we go march along. From the east to the west we dey shout. Mama Biafra, yeah, I'll call no doubt. Enemies close, but we stand up tall. Together we rise, we no go follow. Oh Mama Biafra, your children they cry. Finland free our prime minister. We no go lie. Our enemy they try to annihilate. Free am now before it's too late. In unity we go dey strive. Fight for freedom, we go alive. With courage and strength we dey fight. Mama Biafra, our guiding light. Your children they cry. Finland free our prime minister. We no go lie. Our enemy they try to annihilate. Free am now before it's too late. Freedom no be small something. Now waiting we dey demand without fronting. Biafra land we want them strong. Simon Ekpa, we go march along. From the east to the west we dey shout. Mama Biafra, yeah, oh I call no doubt. Enemies close but we stand tall. Together we rise, we no go fall.
The very first army officer killed in Lagos actually during that time was from Calabar, was killed on by using the term. But actually the Biafran problem was nothing except being genocidal. There was no distinction. The mere fact that you were an Easterner in those days labeled you fit only for one thing: death, and death at the hands of the Nigerian authorities. The Igbos and their associates were killed in practically every village in northern Nigeria. They were killed in many places in western Nigeria. They were in Lagos, even on Kata Bridge, the very center of Lagos. People were looked at and thought, oh, this looked an Igbo, and killed. The very first army officer killed in Lagos, actually, during that time was from Calabar, was killed on the bridge, and so on. Igbos were being hunted out and killed. The Igbos that remained in Lagos after the war began were herded together and detained. without any trial or anything, no question of any legal rights. Till today, property of Igbos are still sequestered in various areas of Nigeria, and they have not been released, not all of them, to the Igbos, the original owners. Oh no, we're quite certain. In fact, the only reason it is not called or not accepted as genocidal is because of the Cold War. At that time, anything ethnic-based was almost like an insult to humanity. And ethnicity became a term of abuse in politics, that's all. If it were today, certainly, what happened in Nigeria is much, much worse than what you have seen of Rwanda, not to talk about Eastern Europe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Daly. All right, I hope you enjoyed the holidays, though, even though no holiday in the media space.
Of course.
But you had some free meat.
I tried.
I think the key word is the free meat there. But let's talk about the IPOB's claim on Gowon and the Nigerian state. As a student of history, how do you respond to the assertion that General Yakub Gowon's comments on the Biafra war are a provocative, insensitive, and shameless attempt to whitewash the atrocities of the Biafran genocide?
Yeah, my takeoff point is that that war was needless, I've been issued. And I'll tell you why it's needless. You see, something precipitated agitation. The 1966 coup was the seed of agitation, where the northern elements, particularly in the political space, accused the southeasterners that were at the top echelon of the military of masterminding that coup. But one thing is clear, in the military, no one particular section of the country will plan a coup without the input of other sections. It hardly succeeds. Okay. That's why the coup of Gideon Oka, the coup of this man that killed Murtala Mohammed, Dimka, you would notice that those two coups were primarily the elements in those coups were primarily from the present-day North Central, Benue, Plateau, you know, not the core north, like the Northwest and Northeast. So, and coups are supposed to be swift. The moment you drag to a point that those who shouldn't know get to know about it, their coup has failed. And the consequence of a failed coup is clear. It's death. So now, when those coup and counter coup came, the northern elements in the military started this idea of subjugating the southern elements, having taken power. Gowon was a lieutenant colonel when he was called to be the head of state, while there were brigadier generals. Then they were calling them brigadiers in the military. But they had to take a northerner in person of General Yakubu Gowon as the head of state. Obviously, the likes of Ojukwu, you know, the likes of Ademulegun, Banjo, those people were in the military. And they felt that if this thing should continue, they will not have a place in a united, supposedly united entity called Nigeria. And so agitation started, and Gowon led the federal side, Ojukwu led his own side, and other elements from other sections of the country were there in Aburi. Aburi in Ghana was the venue where they had meetings. And there were terms of agreement at that meeting,
Okay.
which should have given autonomy to the Biafra Republic. And of course, there was a push for the southwestern states to also have their own autonomy. And those terms were agreed on. But as soon as Gowon got back to Nigeria, certain elements, both within the military and the civil populace, felt no, that there was no way they were going to agree to a section of the country staying away from the Union. And the elements that were there, carried by Ojukwu,
Yeah.
was already on the side of, yes, we are there. And suddenly somebody says, no, it won't work. They're not going to allow it. And trust me, Ojukwu was still a very young man at that time. And he felt, look, this is pure betrayal of trust. We trusted ourselves, and we didn't want any undue interference. That was why we took this thing to Ghana.
Outside the country.
And as a matter of fact, I've been to Aburi 2 times. You can't drive an ordinary car to Aburi because it's on top of the hill. So your car cannot just roll back. Once your car rolls back, it's dead.
Wow.
So these issues fundamentally was betrayal of trust. That we all agreed. We are all military men. As at the time Gowon became head of state, he was not senior in rank to Ojukwu.
That's part of the thought of being betrayed.
Now,
don't you think that the position of Yakubu Gowon now might be able to right some of the wrongs that was done at the time?
No, you see, what we are saying is, when there was a surrender in 1970, everybody, in fact, that was when they said, no victor, no vanquished. The casualty was more on the Biafra side than the federal troops in Nigeria. But the point is, at some point, there is no war that continues for centuries. There must be a point where there will be discussion on round table. For instance, look at what is going on in Russia and in Ukraine. There is no way they will not come to the round table anytime soon for them to resolve this matter. So when that war ended and there was resolution, that was why they came with 3 R's. Reconciliation, reintegration, and forgotten the third one now. I'll remember because of this show.
Now, I want you to respond to their assertion on
now,
General Gowon's comments.
You see, if he says it's a difficult war that they had to prosecute, for me, it's neither here nor there. We have seen countries break in history, even in recent times. Sudan and South Sudan broke up and they're still there. Eritrea broke up from Ethiopia and they're still there. In Great Britain, Ireland broke up and they're still there. Semi-autonomy is given to Scotland and Wales. They're still there. So, if these people were resolute and they feel they can stand on their own, we would have just resolved it amicably and let Biafra stand. Perhaps today we will not be talking about all these problems we have in Nigeria today, because at the end of the day, everybody will grow at its own pace. And I can tell you for free that if that thing had happened at that time, perhaps the Southern Protectorate would have come together using leverage on the weaknesses and strengths, using the SWOT analysis to come as a confederacy with a very weak center, and all the regions would have developed at its own pace. Maybe by now, the southeastern part of this country would have emerged as Singapore.
Okay, let's move away from that story because of time. Let's talk about the stance of the IPOB, because they are not going to stop talking anytime soon. Do you think the Nigerian government has been complicit in IPOB's claim of judicial bias and oppression, particularly in the case of Nnamdi Kanu's detention and prosecution?
You see, for me, Nnamdi Kanu's case is to some extent sub judice now, because it's in the open court and the trial has been ongoing. And the way we were trained in journalism is anything that is in the open court, you are not supposed to comment directly on it. But indirectly, we are looking at political issues. The truth about it is, I would suggest, it's a speedy trial now. I would suggest that we wait until the outcome and the resolution of this matter through the law, so that we can put... I like that statement made by the spokesperson. Powerful. That they are not seeking mercy, they are seeking justice. And that's the route this case is taking. Whatever judgment that is passed becomes a permanent resolution.
But the same Powerful has come to say that Nnamdi Kanu does not have a case to answer. He said that there's no case to answer as far as they are concerned. And in your words, yes, you agree with what he has said, that they are not seeking mercy. It's about justice, which should be the way to go. But how about the implication of this continued detention on Nigeria's national unity and stability?
As a matter of fact, I can tell you that the way the accelerated trial is going on, in a matter of maybe 1 month or 2 months, they should have concluded this case and passed judgment.
Ideally. But do you see that happening?
I'm seeing it, because they go to court almost every day now.
With a lot of evidences and counter evidences, with all of that coming.
In fact, it's like any time from now, if they resume, maybe tomorrow, in the next 1 week, the prosecution will close its case. And once it closes its case, the defense will come up, and in no time, the evidence against Kanu had been put forward. It is for the defense counsels to do what is right by cross-examining those people, and which they have started. So they will also bring up their own defense, and in no time, I am seeing this case being closed by next month.
Okay, let's talk about the government's response and international community. Emma Powerful has made a strong allegation saying that for the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whoever it is that is encouraging the president to shy away from this case or not, have whatever authority he can to put on the case to ensure there's hastened prosecution, trial and judgment at the end of the day. Those are allegations according to some analysts. But what step do you think that the Nigerian government could take to address IPOB's demands and concerns, particularly regarding Nnamdi Kanu's release and the treatment of the Igbo people? Because it's sort of dicey at a time like this, because there are a larger population who will still come out to tell you that they are not part of the people seeking for a Biafra nation. So what can the government do?
See, initially, my position on this issue is for us to find political solution to it. The critical stakeholders in the southeast part of the country coming to see how they can talk government into ensuring that this thing is settled amicably and can be released, so that he can reunite with his family and and continue with his life. But over time, it took a lot of efforts from few genuine Southeasterners who are not playing politics with the detention of Kanu. Perhaps if the major stakeholders in the Southeast had been united in the real sense of it, to ensure that they come to whoever has the power to use political solution to resolve this matter. Maybe Kanu would have even probably returned to Britain, where he's a citizen. But we have seen it, and governors in the Southeast have even said it on different occasions, that politicians are the reasons why Kanu is still in detention.
But if you say that people are playing politics with it, does that not further back the position of those that say that the call for a Biafra nation is not a general call from the Igbo descendants?
Now, you see, if Satan, as depicted in the Bible, comes to Nigeria today and proclaims himself Satan, he will have fellowship. I hope you know that. So the same way, not everybody in Biafra or who is of Biafra extraction
Yeah?
will believe in this cause. Just like when OPC started their wahala, Southwesterners didn't believe in this cause. As a matter of fact, as I sit here, when they went to say they wanted to overthrow government, when they went to Agodi about 2 years ago on a Saturday, when the house was not sitting, when the governor was not sitting, I looked at them as crazy, mad people. And so I was on television in another program, and I said those guys should not be let off the hook, that they should be arrested and probably charged for treason, because it doesn't really make any sense. Violence is not the only way you can get what you want. There's a way you pile pressure in such a way that people will know that, look, enough is enough. We need to listen to these people. So, for me, you are not going to have 100% Igbo extraction believing in that cause. But I can tell you, if they succeed tomorrow, you'll be shocked that those who didn't believe in it will be the one to say, yes, on Biafra we stand.
Wow.
So, for me, two things. Nnamdi Kanu, his life should not be placed on the altar of politics, selfish interest, enlightened selfish interest. They should know that blood runs in the veins of this young man, and that his wife is suffering, his children are suffering, they have emotional imbalance. That may live, the trauma may live with them for a long while.
Which will continue to threaten the unity of the nation.
And it will also continue to threaten, because these people, they know Nnamdi Kanu is no longer Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is the icon, symbol of the Biafra nation. And so anything done to him affects the psychology of
every person that identifies with that.
You understand? So the earlier this case is dispensed with, the better for Nigeria to have peace. But that does not mean that the release of Kanu will automatically stop agitation. Because agitation and what they believe, the Igbos believe, is that they have not had a fair share of what rightly belongs to them in Nigeria over the years, particularly after the Civil War. So efforts should be made to consciously work towards ensuring that those things that they consider as their rights that has not been given to them should be given to them.
So when you say that there should be conscious effort to give things that they say belongs to them, are you saying that other region or other part of the country should be placed on automatic hold, whether qualified or not, because you are trying to pacify a particular part of the country?
Now, let me tell you, there is no part of this country that does not have qualified people. No part of this country. Every part of this country, if you want to locate it on within the presence of ethnicity, there is no country, nobody in this. I mean, no particular section of this country that cannot produce a president, a governor, whatever. Now, the Southwest, after June 12, made conscious effort, lives were lost, but not in the magnitude of the Biafra war that lasted 3 years. And the casualty was mostly in the Southwest. But Southwest didn't go to war. The Yoruba didn't go to war, but they also went to war. And that war was won on majority of the people that fought on the pages of newspaper and the media in general. And there was so much pressure on the military that Yoruba will not have anything other than a Yoruba man taking that rightful position that was denied Chief M.K. Abiola. And because of the pressure, both internally and externally, through the formation of NADECO, and funny enough, people forget this history. Kanu, Ndubisi Kanu, was part of NADECO, and is from the Southeast extraction.
I remember Ndubisi Kanu.
In fact, I cannot readily remember some of the names now. There were Igbos on the side of NADECO fighting for the right of the Yoruba people, having been denied that presidency by arresting, detaining the winner, the presumed winner, which has become the winner now, because government has said he actually won the election. And Babangida came with his book to say he actually won the election. So that label of presumed has been removed. So it's now
the actual winner of the 1993 elections.
You understand? And one of the things the Yoruba nation extracted from the Federal Republic of Nigeria was that nobody was going to contest that election except Yoruba. And that was why Falai contested against Obasanjo.
Yeah, Olufalaye on this part and Olusegun Obasanjo on the other side.
It's another story if the so-called powerful feudals installed Obasanjo. But the point is, they met the Southwest in a way that agitation came down, because it is still, and to even make it clearer, Obasanjo is from Owu in Egba in Ogun State. Abiola was also from Owu in Egba.
That did not make the people of whether Owu, Egba or Ogun to put out their might for Obasanjo.
They didn't vote for him.
Exactly, because there are also claims of affiliations and connections with other parts of the country, other regions in the country, which will be another story for another day. Exactly.
As a matter of fact, that line of thought, I don't believe it, because at the point he said he's from Igbo extraction. It's
just more about affiliations, not exactly who gave birth to who exactly.
You know, so I don't want to go into that. But the important thing is, there are lessons to be learned in agitation. For me, a Biafra is still possible, but those working on it needs to go back to the drawing board.
And re-strategize. Okay, Mr. Fanimo, thank you so much for your insight on that particular topic. Very sensitive one, I must say, but the truth is Nigeria
were asked to go, and then Nnamdi is being detained. You know what is happening to the Ezigbo in Lagos? He is still under detention. Where some people who came out to threaten a particular tribe are moving freely. Now, on the NLC, we had series of NLC presidents in this country. I started working with NLC during the time of Adams Oshomole. I work with Oma. I work with the immediate past one. And they have been organizing protests. They have been kicking against increment of fuel price. They have been fighting for minimum wage. Why should Ajero's own different?
Now the times are different.
I'm coming now.
The times are different. You know, things that happened before when the other presidents were there are different from now. Even the regimes are different. So you cannot just raise a tribal sentiment.
I'm telling you now that the regime just raise a PCs that started from Buhari have passion hatred for the Igbos.
I don't think that's correct.
Ask me. You say I should. You say I should convince you, and I want to convince you. Don't want me to convince. I'm telling you that what happened in Kanu, where people are carrying flag, had it been that thing happened in Enugu or Umuahia or Inowuri, by now there wouldn't have been something like a Southeast. They would have leveled the entire Southeast. Those people that carried flag, had it been that flag, the Igbos never participated in the protest. Had it been that particular flag that was carried in the north, they are carried in the southeast, by now there wouldn't have been something like anything like a southeast. Now, going back to what we are talking about the invitation. Now, watch, this is what happened. That invitation, the first one said, the office is investigating a case of criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion and crime, and cybercrime, in which you were mentioned. Talking about Ajero now, in which we are mentioned. Now, that particular invitation was given on the 19th. That was, I think, Monday. And he was asked to report the following day, less than 24 hours. Very strange. NLC president, who was writing an exam, so he wrote to them through the lawyer that, please, can you allow me to finish my exam? I'll come on the 29th. Lo and behold, on the 29th, we were there. Surprisingly, on camera, the head of IRT said, there was no petition against you. Nobody accused you of anything. Nobody's even mentioned your name. It's against what was contained in the invitation. That rather, somebody who was occupying an apartment in the NLC building committed act of terrorism, and we're investigating the man. In the course of that, we saw some document relating to an NLC. That's why we invited you. Can you tell us what you know about it? Ajero said, well, thank God that you have stated it correctly. One, that building is not under NLC. That building is built by, I think, Third Fund, according to them. And Third Fund need to recuperate their money before they will not hand it over, about 500 million naira. Those tenants there are being put into there by the Third Fund, even before Ajero becomes the NLC president. So the person you are talking about, I don't know him. I don't have his number. I know that there's a bishop there, and I do go there to check some books. That was just it. Then he now talked about NLC minutes. Ajero said it's a public document. Anytime we're having a meeting, people do come. And most of the times after our meeting, they normally upload the minutes to social media. So people have access to the minutes. So he brought out one other document. He did not show Ajero, but he showed Femi Falana. Look at it. So Ajero explained, said, okay.
Name of the governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, to plead with him to talk about the issues between them. And we saw at some point some Tom Polo saying that the fight between Kubara and Wike.
Is Nigeria working for you? Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired, knew the solutions to Boko Haram till he finally became president. He asked ex-President Jonathan to resign because of insecurity. He cried empathetically. He promised to end Boko Haram in 3 months. But now, he's telling us he's done his best to arm the military. Why isn't he resigning? Governor Fashola knew the solutions to providing stable power supply till he became Minister of Power, and darkness pervaded the land. After trying hard and giving excuses like he only plays the super.
All hail Biafra! All hail Biafra! The zoo has fallen. I'm sorry, I broke down. The zoo has fallen. And today, the cries of the Biafra people will be heard all over the world.
I'm asking a very pertinent question. Is Nigeria working for you? Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired, knew the solutions to Boko Haram till he finally became president. He asked ex-President Jonathan to resign because of insecurity. He cried empathetically. He promised to end Boko Haram in 3 months. But now, he's telling us he's done his best to arm the military. Why isn't he resigning? Governor Fashola knew the solutions to providing stable power supply till he became Minister of Power, and darkness pervaded the land. After trying hard and giving excuses like he only plays a supervisory role, the ministry was assigned to someone else. Power grid, still they collapse. The NSAS protests were tagged insurrection. In fact, someone said Aisha Yusufu ought to be in jail for instigating violence. Then farmers were beheaded in Borno. Same person asked Aisha Yusufu to lead a protest. Aren't these people supposed to forbid hypocrisy? Is Nigeria working for any Nigerian today? From leaders hoarding food for the poor, receiving kickbacks from government contracts, to farmers needing permission to go to their farms. Is Nigeria working for you? Why is Zamfara's gold for Zamfara and Niger Delta oil for Nigeria? Why is Hisba destroying alcohol, but their state governments receive federal allocation from monies received via taxation, including tax on alcoholic beverages? Why are some federal roads abandoned to bandits and kidnappers? Who is in charge of Nigeria's security? The president is talking tough this time. Most times, he's as shocked by the rest of us by the absence of good governance under him. Regardless of his campaign promises and the manifesto of his political party, Nigeria has rolled back in terms of development. From Naira continually losing its value to our recently launched locomotive trains breaking down in the middle of nowhere. Nigeria has to be working for some people, though. The government can do no wrong. To this set of people, their money isn't being stolen, even if the money is being borrowed, leaving debts for their own children to pay in future. Even if the leaders don't use public institutions, from sending their children to Ivy League schools abroad to getting medical treatment abroad, some people who have nothing and we need to donate money for their medical bills if they have a serious ailment, continue to hail the obvious lack of good governance till Nigeria happens to them. Then they get a little pissed. May Nigeria never happen to you. Say amen. We deserve better than the political class who go home with millions monthly to represent people who can't even afford to feed themselves. I am Olajumoke Alaode James. Nigeria is not working for me. Is Nigeria working for you?
Biafra, the land of the rising sun. Ndane kumakahabo, Ndi Biafra, Umu check up, Israel na Africa, na the Gulf of Guinea. Hey, Biafra is sure. His Excellency, Mazi Simon Eba Joko, the Prime Minister of Biafra Republic. Omogina Nabata. Aha. Aha. Welianaga. Obodi Anamamia. Omo Biafra ne wongo. Israel ne wongo. Owo kainjana. Owo kainjana. Hey. Na so, anyị ala. Ụmụ Biafra n'ala. Anyị n'ala n'ala nsọ. Ngwanụ ka anyị lawa. Aka kpuchi ọnwa. Aka kpuchi ọnwa. We are unstoppable. We are indefatigable. Ebe anyị nọ bụ obodo ọma. The 14 states of Biafra. Ngwanụ. Anyị ana. Ihe Chidere odego ya. Chidere anyị Biafra. Anyị alawala. Ma ndị nọ n'obodo Igbo, ma ndị nọ na Naịjirịa, ma ndị nọ na mba ụwa ọzọ dị iche iche. Obi ka dawala. Ọ nọkwa anyị n'ugwu na ndịda. Oge ụnụ anyị erugo. Webe ọṅụ. Webe ọṅụ. Webe ọṅụ. Eluigwe na-enwe ọṅụ. Anyị apụọ. Anyị apụọ. Ana m anụ ya. Na so. Gbaa ya agba. Eshi ụka. Nwayọ. Na so we dey do am. Papa jiri ya nwayọ. Mama gbara m egwu a. Nwayọ. Ụmụaka, ụmụ Biafra, ụmụ ọma. Anyị a na-anọ. N'obodo